Greetings, all. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Vapor Trail, aircraft filled with people. Heading somewhere to the western U.S. Birds flying. That's south of Miami and kind of a west towards Bradenton, Florida, Gulf of Mexico. And the skies, clouds. Earlier today the temperature was 90 degrees here in Central Florida. Probably about 75 now. I said all of that to say that all around me, this neighborhood is quiet, relaxed, peaceful. Anyone who live in this neighborhood without a cell phone or television or radio think the whole world is just like this. We step across the Atlantic. I don't know. That way, I think it is. Yep, that way. And we come across Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau. And the world is different. People there have cell phones and televisions, live behind high walls tipped with barbed wire. Every window has a bar on it. If it doesn't have a bar on it, you can bet somebody's gonna come in, take what you got. And if you don't put bars up, they will come back. Two different worlds. One, it's like a jungle where people just trying to eat each other. From here in this neighborhood, I don't know about that world unless I go there. From that world, we can travel to Ukraine or Iran, Palestine or Lebanon, Cameroon, Congo, Sudan. And unless the people there in West Africa go to that area, they will not know what is going on. Why? Because their world, they're not concerned with anything else going on around them. And us, we're not concerned with anything else going on in the other two worlds. But it's going to affect all of us. You see, what's happening there today is coming here tomorrow. You know me, I'm going somewhere that is going to touch on Africa. The war that you see going on now, it didn't just start. It didn't just begin, that war. It's been going on for a million years. And people will look at me and says, how could it be going on for a million years when only 6,000 years the Bible says that the earth was created? Okay, that's your book. And you don't know it. How come science said that man has only been on the earth around 600,000 years? We've been only civilized humans, well, I mean, with quotations, because the Caucasian look at the African as not being civilized, and he has to civilize him. That's why we had slavery and, so forth. The Romans used to look at the Gauls and other northern Europeans as uncivilized. And the Africans, they used to see the Europeans as just plain old savages. Today, the Europeans went from slaves to the enslaver, to being an enslaver. That's why I said what you see there today, coming here tomorrow. Told you about the river. Rivers, I mean, there's several, everything is a river. Everything. Whether it be technology, people, the land, the earth itself moves. It moves slower than water, than the clouds. When I say water, I'm talking about the clouds. It moves slower than the waves of the ocean. than the hurricanes traveling across the water, but it moves. Africans are looking at the war in Israel, and they're probably divided, except for the leadership. The leaders not. The ignorance is that they don't see the reality of the war, because if they did, Africa would not be in the condition that it's in. And it's in that condition because African leaders keep it that way. They are wishing, all African leaders are wishing that this war in Israel will end quickly. This war between Israel and Iran. And it's not just the war between Israel and Iran. I told you about this, the story about the Persians and the Arabs. And you know a story about the Israelis, the so-called Jews, the people who call themselves Jews. The chosen people reached out and attacked the people who didn't attack them. And they want the world to believe that these people are making an atomic bomb to attack them. But Africans are not looking at this thing in the real manner, the manner that they should be looking at it. Because if Iran falls, Africa is going to be in trouble. And I'm not supporting anybody. I don't care. I shouldn't say I don't care who win or lose. But I have gone through this before. That's why I can tell you the history between the Persians and the Arabs. And the Arabs are supporting Israel. The sons of Saud, which are all the Arab nations. And I'm not talking Arab nations, not Morocco, and those will be considered Muslim nations. And some of them too are supporting Israel. But the Arabs have never really been a strong people. The wars that they fought amongst themselves, anytime they fought against somebody else outside, the Africans came in to help them win. Go back and read your history, and you will see for yourself if I'm lying. Persia, Iraq are not Arab nations, but they have helped the Arab to conquer most of Europe. The Turks are not Arabs, but they have helped the Arabs in the conquest of Europe. And then when the Arabs lost Europe, it was the Turks who took them in. Not to mention the so-called Jews. When they were kicked out of Europe, Turkey took them in. And I'm not talking about those who came from Europe who rule Israel now. That's your little history. But let me give you the history of the future. That little country that they call Israel, who's fighting against Iran with the help of the US and all of the EU. If they overcome Iran, guess who is next? They can't go into Asia, so guess where they're going to go? And already the president of the Congo state has invited them in to Africa. The AU invited Israel into Africa. If not for South Africa, they will be observing they're still observing everything that goes on in Africa. Because the Indians are the watchdogs for Israel or the Jewish people in Africa. The UAE and the Saudis are all Saudis, the countries where Saudis' children rule, are the watchdog for Israel in Africa. You saw when Traore came into power, the only thing they offered him was to build mosques. No weapons to defend themselves against the criminals that were invading the land that the French brought in. Saudis is behind Israel to attack Iran. All Assad's children. The problem now becomes if Israel overcome Iran, when they decide to come into Africa, who is going to fight for Africa? African states have huge armies, all to protect who calls himself president, and who's got a few dollars in a bank in France and Germany and Belgium and London. But a battalion of Israeli IDF can march across Africa if they choose to, especially sub-Saharan Africa. African armies are incapable of defending Africa against an external force. incapable. All of the African army leaders were trained in London, France, and Germany, and even some in America. And none of them have the military ability to defend Africa. The Cubans came in and freed Africa from the Caucasians in Rhodesia and South Africa. And it didn't even take a third of the Cuban army. There is no shame in the leaders of Africa. I'm watching a fight going on between the former leader of the Gambia and the current leadership. And all the people of Gambia know the history, but they're divided one against the other over this subject. Why? I made a video the other day showing you this Gambian man said, we can give roads, but we won't give it to everybody. That's how Africa is destroyed. The incapacity of people who's supposed to have brain but can't reason. They can't see past the bank account where they put in the money they get from the UN and every place there is giving them money. The sun will go down one day. On these same Africans. And if the young people don't stand up, when the sun sets, Africa will be enslaved again. Another 2,000-year cycle before the opportunity arises again for them to free themselves. It is shameful that 60 years into the so-called independence, I still hear Africans talking about how the Caucasian is keeping them down. When every leader that stands up to that same Caucasian, it was an African who murdered him. Was an African now who murdered him. It's a sad day when Africans, seeing what's going on the planet, and fears grip them because they know they cannot defend themselves when the time a coming, as the old people used to say. I grew up hearing that in Barbados, the time a coming, then you're gonna have to fight. And the Africans can't defend themselves. As I told you before, it was the Africans who helped conquer Europe for the Muslims. But today they can't free Africa. And they have no shame about it. In Kenya, the young people say, you know what, we've had enough of this. Things got to change here. Guess what? Ruto sent his goons to kill his own people. Nigeria, young people stand up and say, no, 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 no. Guess what? Nigerian president sent his goons to kill the people. The former president of Senegal, same thing. Cameroon, same thing is happening. Togo, Guinea, all over Africa. I've been warning those of you who are of the diaspora, Africans who were enslaved and Africans who left Africa and now are returning. Beware, because those you left behind will turn on you when the Zionists come. It might have seemed like I don't know what I was talking about. But I'm telling you now, watch this conflict between Iran and the Zionists, the Jewish people. Watch it. Beware of your surroundings. I'm not telling you this to scare you, but to prepare you. The same thing happened in America here, you know. When the Caucasians came into America, the Indian tribes, they turned on each other. The Caucasians hired them to fight each other. There's one side fighting for the French, one side fighting for the British, one side fighting for the American. And the German came in, handed them all kinds of infected materials, from blankets to food. Americans gave them alcohol, fire water, as the saying goes. Beware. Beware. Peace.